Hey everyone, just thought I'd try to do a quick video. Oh, man, time goes fast when you have to slam information in. Uh, this is going to be part 2B because part 2 ended up being too long, uh, where we are going through the Great Reset, helping people understand all of the multitude of perspectives that are involved. Part 2 is the Great Reset. We ended up relating it to the four horsemen of the apocalypse: pestilence, war, famine, and conquest. And so we had covered war and pestilence yesterday. Maybe just the first one. It was just a lot, I swear. Anyway, so I'm going to go through and figure out where I left off anyway. And so I guess we'll start with war. So most of this information can be found from the New American Great Reset and Transhumanism edition. They do retail for $14.95. And you can go to jbs.org to find that. It's incredible information here. There's 20 articles on different topics that show just the ginormity of what the Great Reset really is. And although people are starting to understand the phrase, maybe use the phrase, they have no idea about how big it is. So without further ado, I'm going to try to keep these things under 10 minutes, which is probably impossible. And I better get my time in right now. So we're going to go ahead and start with war, okay? So on February 24th, 2022, Reuters reported that President Vladimir Putin authorized a special military operation against Ukraine, saying that the aim was to demilitarize Russia's southern border. But what most people don't actually know is that the West, the United States, the West, Britain, had actually created the conditions for war in the first place. And this is where I love to talk about these conspiratorial elements because they're true. Every time you can connect a dot relating to war, it will take you all the way back to the controlling mechanism and the agenda for the alleged war. So basically what they did was they set up, the United States military ended up setting up an overthrow in 2014 of a democratically elected Ukrainian president of pro-Russian persuasion in order to put in place the anti-Russia regime. Isn't that great? They have to use that Hegelian dialectic to be able to make that happen. The Ukrainian president was replaced with the U.S. elected administration in an entirely unconstitutional takeover because citizens they don't really care what's going on aside from what's outside of their backyard, which is really a tragedy. But in reality, after 2 decades of eastward NATO expansion, which is the expansion of the United Nations overall, this crisis was triggered by the West's attempt to pull Ukraine decisively into its orbit and defense structure. So what we start seeing here is the empowerment of the United Nations in yet one more area. Some people think that they're rather insignificant, but those that say that have no idea about how the United Nations has literally not only infiltrated itself into politics and economics, into our own government in the United States, but how it's worked to be able to do that in every country across the globe. From that precipitating event in 2014 runs the arrow straight to the onset of 2022's special military operation. In April of 22, a peace deal between Kiev and Moscow was on the table, and the West interceded to make that deal fail. Now, that's a big surprise. That just means that the globalists that are in control of the United States military-industrial complex have an agenda, and they're not going to allow anybody to interfere with it, right? So they had a tentative agreement that Russia would allegedly, back away when it controlled part of the Donbass region and all of Crimea, and in exchange, Ukraine would promise not to seek NATO membership and instead receive security guarantees from a number of countries. Well, why did it fall apart? The United States military, or the United States government, number one, in deciding that it wants to be able to operate within the interest of the United States. It's not just former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson killed the primary chance. Biden has done precisely nothing. That's a big surprise, a big goose egg there, to try to end the hostilities and to create more agitation in the region. A full-on clash between the United States and Russia would be utterly apocalyptic in nature. which is ultimately what they want. The United States is not encouraging war with Russia. Hostilities simmering between NATO allies and Greece and Turkey threaten to heat up, exacerbating the recent arrival of the upgraded F-16s in Greece. War is the health of the state. If one becomes warmongers like the United States is not very healthy. So that's just the war issue. We go on to famine. At the end of the food abundance is the consequence of both the destructive COVID policies and the Biden-era warfare regime. Choices had made the industrial and energy politics openly antagonistic to food production. Government is knowingly pursuing policies that will lead to food shortages. Now, you remember Biden openly admitted and stated the fact that the American people should prepare for food shortages. Are you kidding me? When in the history of the United States of America, that jackwagon, that we ever have somebody that openly sat there and told the people that we were going to end up having to deal with food shortages? That's like a president saying, you probably ought to prepare because your neighbor's going to steal your property, or worse, whatever, right? This is absolutely insane. But you know what's really weird is that so many people are focused on local issues. They don't see the bigger picture. I'm not sure exactly what I can say to these people to help them understand that voting your way into the GOP isn't going to fix this problem at all. I mean, unless you're going to be focusing on Congress, which nobody wants to do. And we have, according to our Freedom Index rating, the average Freedom Index score, constitutional rating is 34%, which proves my point in that people are just not engaged, but they would like to blame them and say, well, they're just corrupt politicians anyway. When I would challenge you, if you're a parent, to allow your children to do whatever they want without you saying anything and see what happens. They'd go insane, wouldn't they? Leave your dog at home by itself, right? And somehow we just think, oh yeah, we should just leave the politicians. Tom, he's a pretty good politician and we don't need to hold him accountable because he's going to make the right decision every time. Is that a fact? It's not a fact at all. So we got the COVID lockdowns, we got disrupted production, we've got the supply chain issues that everybody's believing is the war because of the media propaganda machine. Let's see, there was COVID policies on food availability in the article, Trends in Food Science and Technology in March of 2022. These people are all making excuses for what they're trying to do to you. Now, I don't know how else to say this other than Klaus Schwab not only wants you to not eat meat, he wants to forbid the cattle industry from thriving. He wants to be able to establish zero economic growth, and he's going for zero economic growth due to climate change because carbon dioxide they believe to be anthropogenic, which means human caused. This is all another part of the Great Reset and why people need to understand it doesn't just affect your food, your water, your property, war, pestilence, whatever else it is. It affects the future of your children. This is all part of the grand plan. And you know what's really funny? This is the greatest, most well-orchestrated, brilliant global conspiracy to overtake an idiot populace. I mean, we must be freaking stupid to allow this stuff to continue to happen. They're openly brainwashing your children, and yet people are like, we want public school choice. It's like, do you want to choose what kind of bugs you want to eat since you're going to be okay with them removing cows and chickens and eggs from your diet? I mean, this is where I'm wondering, maybe these brilliant people that are crafting these brilliant plans should win because we're freaking stupid. We certainly don't want to act like grown-ups and to be able to fight for freedom because, well, we'll just let the next generation figure it out. I've had people tell me in conversations, well, we'll just let our children figure it out like we had to, if they only knew. So we go into port restrictions, border restrictions, curfews, social distancing limitations, reduced quality, reduced productivity, reduced competitiveness of key sectors, disrupting animal feed supplies, reducing the animal farming. This is all happening not only in America, ladies and gentlemen, which I would assume that you'd be outraged, but you're not. Egg smashing, milk dumping, getting vaccinated because your children told you to. I have more people telling me, well, I got vaccinated because my children told me to. You know what? Maybe these children that are radical Marxists should be able to tell you why you should get your rights from the government and not from God. I seriously wonder about people sometimes. The alleged impact on energy supplies which have been destabilized as a result of anti-Russian sanctions and the crisis of natural gas. I saw a post on Facebook and they're like, well, is natural gas part of the plan? Or are they saying, why are there high prices, gas prices? Do people not really understand this? Part of climate change and sustainable development is to be able to drive petroleum, to make it impossible for you to drive your gas-operated car, for you to be able to use liquid propane, for you to be able to use natural gas. They want to control the way that you drive. They want to control the way that you live. They want to control the way you eat. They want to control how many children you have. They want to control how long you live. They want to control what you think so that they can determine who the enemy is so they can work on exterminating you. And if you don't think that's happening, then you must not have half a pulse. Ammonia prices in Europe have increased 270%. There's a food fertilizer shortage. I'm sure the people in our agricultural areas in Twin and Burley would be happy about that. We're in a huge natural gas crisis that's going to translate into higher fertilizer prices while the farmers are working out in the fields from dawn to dusk. And sometimes I wonder if anybody's even reaching out to them. I certainly have tried, and nobody's willing to put me in touch with them so that we can start grabbing these guys and helping them grab their pitchforks. I mean, who else is going to grab a pitchfork for crying out loud? Compounding the problem are restrictions on farmers' usage, fertilizers on emissions from farms imposed in fighting climate change. The Netherlands is up in an uproar. Sri Lanka's got massive riots. Canadian restrictions envision reducing absolute greenhouse gas, GHG, emissions associated with fertilizers by 30%. Now, if they can remove carbon CO2 from the fertilizer, what does that mean? That means you're not going to be growing food. Farms will not be as productive. Farms won't be as productive. They won't be productive at all. Farms won't even exist like when they ended up dealing with the smelt fish. And I think the average person in America just said, oh, well, that's California, those loonies, that's the land of fruits and nuts, not realizing that it was coming to your back door. This is not an accidental outcome. This is the result of deliberate policy. So why? Why is that? Well, the world's elite, the globalist oligarchs, the Great Reset, and Build Back Better, really the word reset literally means to return something, a machine, a culture, a society, to its original settings. Market campaigns of the internationalist oligarchy, what exists must first be destroyed. You must be destroyed. Your cars must be destroyed. Your cattle must be destroyed. Your eggs must be destroyed. Your chickens must be destroyed. Your access to fossil fuels should be destroyed. Your homes should be destroyed. And you should move into stack and pack housing in the city. Is that such a stretch? Not much. They want to reimagine, re-engineer the world to match their desired future. Klaus Schwab is open about this. This is not some weird Tom Munn's conspiracy theory. Watch Klaus Schwab videos, and they're even on YouTube. As we shall see, according to Schwab, continues Schwab, solutions to the major challenges we face do exist and are within the grasp. But they will require a great deal of motivation and dramatic changes in our economics and societies, as well as in institutions, laws, and rules that govern them. Our life habits and modes of consumption will also need to change drastically. According to Schwab, who gives a voice to the international consensus, which is a sustainable development term that you should know, is developed, implemented, enforced globalist government organizations, the UN, the non-governmental organizations called NGOs, such as Schwab's own World Economic Forum, and every aspect of life that we know has to be drastically changed. And none of it's happening by accident. Now, they can only succeed in their plan if they can convince the vast majority of people that resistance is futile. There you go. I've had more people tell me, well, there's nothing we can do. Our government's just the way it is and we can't do anything. As if that's really the way you feel, I think we should be scraping every dime we have and sending your butt to Venezuela. Since you've already given up, you weak soul, and you think somehow you want to live in America and enjoy the freedom for that and expending it upon and denying it to your posterity, you should move. And you could say, oh, Tom, there he's angry again. You know what? You don't think I got a reason to be angry? I got 4 kids. I got me, I got my wife. I'm helping defend my friends, helping them understand more things. And yet what? The one thing that somebody told me, they said it was amazing. And I don't consider myself a prophet by any stretch. He said, you know, prophet isn't even welcome in your own home. And I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I thought about that, and I'm like, you know, you could possess all of the truth in the world. And what it means is that people just aren't, the people that know you the best won't believe you. Unless they're like-minded on their own somehow. And so this is a really big tragedy for us. And I'm going way longer than I'm supposed to. Tomorrow we're going to end up covering the war on food and farmers. If you enjoy the video a little bit, share it. If you want to educate yourself, follow the process. Or follow the series. If you're interested in sharing it with somebody else, please do that. You don't have to call anybody. You don't have to I don't want to talk to somebody about conspiracy because I don't know, they don't really like it. And it's just so negative and I might just get upset. If you don't, the future of this country is over. The future of your children is over. The future of America is over. The people that are clamoring for freedom around the world are watching what Americans are doing. So if you think somehow any little thing you do doesn't have a major consequence, you better think again. It's time to put on our big boy panties. It's time to be able to see the world for what it is. It's time to acknowledge the federal government, for crying out loud, and not just local politics, because none of this stuff that we're reading here at all has anything to do with, it has everything to do with educating your local legislators. But you know what? I'm still being told, Tom, you can't talk about Agenda 2030. You can't talk about the Great Reset. You can't talk about food shortages, and you can't talk about supply chains, and you can't speak against COVID. The hell I can't. And you should be doing it too. So anyway, that concludes part 2. So part 2B, I guess. Part 3 will be the war on food and farmers as we go on to probably cover about 16 more parts of the series. Hopefully you guys will find it entertaining. Again, if you want a copy of the book zine, you can go to jbs.org. You can look up The Great Reset and Transhumanism. It's got a big picture of that ugly bald dude right on the front, man. And it's $15. It's a little bit of money, but you know what? It's probably one of the greatest pieces of information that we've ever put out. So God bless you guys. Hope you had a great day. And I hope you guys don't think I'm too mad. See you later.